Thank you for tuning in. My name is Danny, and this is the Common Roll Podcast. Well, all right. Hope you guys have been good. Hopefully, the new year is treating you guys pretty decent so far. I just realized a couple of things here that I've been podcasting for a minute now, and it just hit me that this is the 41st episode of the Common Roll Podcast. I hope you guys have been enjoying the content as much as I've enjoyed making it. I hope you guys are getting something out of this. And even if you're not, you know what? Fuck it. It's good for me. I'm getting something out of this, and that's the important part. Well, 2020 is officially underway. This is, by the time I release this, I think it's going to be basically the second week or so of January. Well, you know what? So far, so good. I don't have too much to complain about, other than things that seem to be going pretty well in certain parts and not so much in other parts. But hey, you know what? Strikes and gutters, dude. Strikes and gutters. All right, well, speaking of one of my favorite films, today's conversation is with Aaron Markus of 8 a.m. Films. And we have a nice conversation about the excitement of just getting into film photography, talk about a couple movies, documentaries. He's really into making documentaries as well as, of course, watching them. We talk about keeping it hyper local, how possibly just staying local is probably going to be more beneficial than trying to explore something outside of your area, trying to overexpand, I guess is how we would call it. And we dive deep into that. Please follow him. He's got some great photography going. And I will definitely leave the links in the show notes, 8amfilms.com. Please enjoy the conversation with Aaron. Aaron, thank you so much for coming by.
My pleasure.
I know you can angle these things a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, get that thing right there. Yeah.
Got it.
Get a little. I can move it closer to if you want.
No, I'm cozy.
All right, good. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. Nice to officially meet you in person.
Yeah.
And basically, I think I followed you through the Phoenix Film Revival thing. Now, we just mentioned a little bit ago that you just got a new job scanning.
Yeah, I'm just scanning film negatives. I basically keeping the obsession when I'm not shooting and not developing at home or not at the community darkroom. And I'm scanning them all day long, 5 days during the week now.
Wow. Now, first of all, I'm like surprised that there are that many people shooting film right now where you are busy 5 days a week scanning film.
It goes deeper, though. It's like family photos. We scan not just negatives, but I mean, slide films was the biggest film medium for years because slide film is the only way to show your friends back in the day, right?
Yeah. So
slide film is like the biggest archival form of film, I think, even now. So ironically, there we go. Ironically, that's all I've been looking at this past week was just slide film, and it was super eye-opening for me. I've only been shooting film since July, so it's been about 7 months.
Okay,
but like I hit it hard, and I got the film bug, bro. Like,
wow.
Like, since I guess I went to PFR and was like shown how to develop, that was like super eye-opening to me. I've been developing color at my house since then. Like,
wow, just 7 months ago, just started doing this.
Just started shooting film, period.
But no, it's not like you're the first-time cameraman, though.
No, I've been shooting professionally, making money professionally since 2007, so about 13 years now.
Nice.
But like, it had a bit of a small curve for me. I think, ironically, I don't know what it is, but like weirdly, everyone says black and white's easier. Black and white's easier. Shoot black and white. Develop black and white. I don't know. I haven't had that same experience. Scanning black and white, harder. Color film, love it. I just makes sense.
I I've been shooting black and white for a long time, and I agree with you. I think scanning color film is way easier.
So much easier.
Than... I think what a lot of people don't understand, and maybe that once you start scanning a lot and once you start shooting a lot of black and white, is that black and white captures a lot of light in the frame. It's got a huge, obviously, exposure latitude, but then it's got this high dynamic range that wasn't really available until... in color until now, I think, when we start shooting digital.
Yeah.
Was. So slide film was great for color, but it had a little latitude, and then color is just a little bit higher latitude than that. But some of the reasons why old black and white movies look amazing the first time is because there's a lot of light being funneled through and catches our eye that is lost when we see a color movie sort of thing. And I think that's when you shoot something in black and white and you want to scan it, you really got to tweak a little bit more, where not just your obviously highlights and shadows, but your gray areas are going to be, dude, that's not where I wanted it. Oh, that's where I wanted it. Or, it just gets crazy.
I think I'm like a very technical person, so we're going to have to go a little more advanced probably, but like ultimately, like, I think what it really is black and white's, because film isn't a raw file. Like, I grew up with digital. I've seen how far, it's come since the beginning. And I've been there since they started using it and everyone hated it. Mm-hmm. Like, everyone hated digital when it first came out. It was garbage.
Yeah.
Which is true. But, like, at the same time, film is not a raw file. So if you're coming from digital and you're going into film, you can't approach it the same way. It kind of shuts basically what a real photographer needs to know when going into film, especially with the digital background, is black and white film, or specifically, is able to collect light better than color, which is true, which is what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you can only capture what there is light of. Meaning, if it's pitch black and short of long exposure stuff, and with reciprocity failure, I can never say that word, that means that there is a limit to the film and how much light it can absorb. Like, once there's zero light and you've gotten all the light in the scene, you cannot get more information. So if whatever's lit in your scene, period, is what you're going to only get more light of with black and white specifically. Mm-hmm. And color, it's going to be less.
Yeah.
But film is also the opposite of digital in that, like, film has a lot more latitude with the highlights, but if you don't capture enough for your shadows, that's it.
Yeah, you lost it.
It's the other way around for digital. Mm-hmm. Like, you want to always protect your highlights as a digital photographer, and you can always pretty much pull out anything you want out of the image. But,
especially with these cameras nowadays.
Especially the super fancy raw images. But like, and raw is like a superpower. Like, I will keep shooting digital for high action or high sports or super low light. That's probably the only thing I would like reserve digital for, because I'm not against digital. It's not that. It's that, honestly, for me, film recaptured the love of photography, why shoot in the first place. I've been shooting for other people for so long. I didn't really realize, like, I put myself so far in the back burner that, like, it wasn't fun anymore. Like, I'm a machine. Like, I gotten down to, like, boiling down everything to narrative, to story, to why do what, and it's everything to do with intention. And when clients come to me and they're like, hey, I want to capture photos of my food truck. I'm like, oh, cool. What do you want exactly? Like, just people enjoying the food and blah, blah, blah. And like, okay, but why? And then they all don't know really what to say. And it's like, you're trying to say, your food is amazing, or I'm creating a fun culture around what we're doing and stuff like that. But you can boil down what someone's wanting to do to very short phrases. And that's like the objective. And that's what, I wish more people could gain more appreciation of. Like, if, I went to film school, don't get me wrong. Like, so I speak the language, but at the same time, like when I ask you what the movie is about, let's say it's The Sandlot. What is the movie really about? Not what the plot is, which is, this one kid meets a group of kids and they go play baseball and then there's a monster, right? That's the plot. What is the movie about? It's about growing up in the hood and like finding community and appreciating something together, which could be film, could be baseball, but that's what the movie's about. So these are like shortcut phrases that, people don't really realize exist and they're right in front of us. But, that's like what I'm into. I'm into narrative. I'm into story.
I'm so glad you said that because on my other podcast and another conversation I've had with other people that watch film, we talk about American Psycho, and which is, I love that film. I think it's crazy as fuck, but the whole theory about what is American Psycho about, and they go, well, because it's about a crazy guy that goes around killing people in New York, and I'm like, well, I don't think so. I took away something a little different.
Right.
I think the American Psycho is us.
Right.
Where we are the ones that don't give a fuck about a killer going around in New York.
Right.
And that what makes us psychotic.
And at the end of the movie, technically, no one died.
No one.
Right.
And I'm thinking
Spoiler
maybe.
alert, but
well, I'm thinking maybe they did, maybe they did, because I'm already lost in it too. I'm like, okay, well, if he didn't die, and the running joke, I love the running joke that everyone knows. What's his name, Paul, and that he's got to return VHS tapes, which I find,
I mean, like my favorite parts of that whole movie is like, yeah, it is Phil Collins, Bob, and like he hits him over the head with the axe.
Yeah,
and like to me, that's actually like a really big commentary on our love of appreciating stupid shit like pop culture, and like I don't know, I wouldn't go too deep into like hitting someone over the head with an axe, but it's like I don't know, it seems like a really big like exaggeration or cartoon of something that means something else,
Exactly. And it's now through that though, and one of my favorite going into, since we're on films, and I got you here, I'm from film school, and I'm going to bore you for a second. Telling a story, I think, through photography is the main point in everything, that, and still photography specifically. But like the movie that really stands out as far as photography wise for me that tells a crazy story is Seven.
Oh man.
That, like, I'm not into horror movies where they're like, the supernatural slash and all that jazz, but like movies like Silence of the Lambs and Seven, those are the ones that scare me a lot.
Oh yeah, because they're so real.
Yeah. And then the cinematography on Seven is like, dude, what is this? I mean, to me, as far as, there's a lot of great cinematographers, but the movies that stand out for me the most are The Hustler and Seven.
Seven, nice.
Just because the camera work is so amazing to where it's almost like the actors don't need to say anything.
Right.
And I'm like, damn, those are real photographers in my essence, where they just fucking control the whole scene themselves. And what is that movie about? Well, of course, it's, we can go into that one as well. Yeah. But it's one of those movies where I think, which I'll ask you about too, like even in the most simplest commercials point where someone says, take a picture of my food truck. Okay, well, what is that about?
Right.
To the movie like Seven, well, what is that movie about? And I don't need to hear anything. I could just...
Yeah, exactly.
The actors are great, though, by the way, but...
Yeah. No, I know, but like pulling narrative out of thin air, or really looking at what we're doing and why. Yes. And really it's always coming back to why. Because like actually, like I haven't posted on Instagram since like November 8th.
Yeah.
Maybe December 8th. I might have, one of the 2 months, but I've stopped posting. I've only been using stories, actually. Mm-hmm. And I've actually gained like 100 followers just from stories, which is interesting. Okay. I've been paying attention to organic, the organic feed of things. Plus, working with models and having them letting them post the work. Yeah. And then people come find me, kind of thing. But I mean, like, really the whole reason I stopped was because I just didn't, I lost sight of the why. Like, I didn't have a really answer. Why post on Instagram? Mm-hmm. Well, you got to post every day. Why?
Yeah.
Why? Tell me. I'd love to know a legit reason, like not just some reason you think of and like, oh, okay, I could maybe see that. No, like a legit, like, why should I personally and my work be posted every day? I don't, I understand how it's been all arranged and set up, and like your feed should be presented in this way and should be clean and should be able to scroll and everything should feed, in this sort of perfect assembly of presentation. Like, why though? And no one has had a great answer for that.
And why are those accounts given favor then?
And numbers don't count anymore. Let's be real. Like, sure, having 10,000 followers would be nice for the swipe up feature and marketing. But marketing is different than photography. Marketing is still not the same. You can use photography to market. Sure. You can use just about anything for marketing, but I'm not a business. And maybe I kind of have been for a long time in some aspects of like, I have my clients and this is how I make a living, which is true. But I've pulled way back. I've really like said no to a lot of people now. And like, I've also stopped caring about what the numbers is. Like, I'm pretty much flattened out at like about 3,000. And I don't even know if a third of those are even real.
Mm-hmm.
But I just basically stopped caring. I just was like, you know what? Forget the numbers. Like, if you have 1,000 real followers, then you have plenty.
Yeah, right.
You need 1,000 real people in your area who are going to say the best things about you. That's it.
But I want 1 million.
Right.
And who may or may not even care what happens to me. And
well, 1 million, 1 million in all directions won't get you anywhere. You know, like, we need to be more hyper local, I guess, on Instagram, especially like in that kind of arena. Is I think we need to be more hyper local. You need to be more in tune with who's around you. Like, I've been doing this so long, I kind of understand like who's an influencer worth paying attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like using that word because it's become a thing.
Yeah.
But I've seen how words have changed even in my industry. Like, people used to say different words and now it's like influencer, and influencers become kind of a faux pas word that you're trying to avoid. But like, ultimately it kind of is like, but I don't lean on it. I don't like depend on that word. I'm like, no, all I actually do is like, I legitimately will express who I think is really trying to be involved, who's really trying to build community, or who's even just adding to the community. And also like some of the bigger, and like a lot of the photographers I really admire and follow and I feel are pretty legit. And all their numbers are kind of all over the place. Like, some are 1,500, some are 7,000, some are 15,000. And it's kind of all in between. And the numbers don't really affect my image of them. Like, sure, that's handy if you're trying to do that. But if you're legit, like, being involved, got your own model, your own customer base and your own people you're working with, then you're doing plenty. And like, I can think of a couple off the top of my head. I want to name drop a little bit.
Go for it.
But like, I didn't go to film school for photography. And so like, I know some like directors of photography, people who shoot the movies, cinematographers for films, but I don't know the photographer side of that coin. And I don't actually want to know. Like, I've learned a few names and I love Vivian Mayer.
Mm-hmm.
She was like pioneer of the self-portrait with a little magic rolly. And I think his name was like Wong. I don't remember his first name, but he did a lot of amazing street photography. Street photography is like kind of a whole different thing for me, but I love street photography. I really would love to do it. And I don't think I'm ready yet, but like locally, I can say like my favorite photographers are people like Smaller Ocean on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I love Mike Valence. He's a little edgier. There's some really cool dudes. I would love to say them all, but I'm not going to do that. But, and those are, to me, like, those are real people. They're doing their own art. They're building their own communities, but they are still like actively being out there and making a name for themselves, and just locally, not like, I don't know how you try and become someone bigger, but I realize you just start local, you know?
And I think in the big brackets around Instagram, it's probably going to be harder and harder if you do concentrate on being local to break out, or whatever it is that however people break into the hundreds of thousands and even million followers.
Right.
Everyone blames this thing called the algorithm. You know, It's some sort of crazy god substance that, the algorithm is fucking with my shit. And it's like, I don't know. Because I see, the people that kind of complain about that, you look at their work and it's like, well, let's focus on, getting good stuff first, and then getting into, if that's your goal, to get all the likes and whatever.
Right.
But then what you were saying, there's some photographers out there that I'm like, why doesn't this guy have 1 million followers, or this girl have 1 million followers? I'm like, this is some epic shit.
Right.
And it's like, well, whatever. And I think that, to pick your brain, in your experience, would you say that staying, I love the term hyper local, by the way,
sure.
That would probably do more for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you say that?
Bro, so I have like a practical example of this. Okay. I have a good friend, food truck, Birchie's Hot Dogs. Go follow him.
Nice.
Dude's super legit. And you can say whatever you want about hot dogs, but you don't know anything.
Okay.
Because I thought I knew about hot dogs. So like, hot dogs is just this thing that's crammed full of whatever. Who knows what's in there? Hot dogs, right? But hot dog maker, it's like a full meal and there's a hot dog in there. Like, that's what his hot dogs are, just to put it out there. But he follows like a lot of the big social media people with big numbers, big audiences from all over the country, right? And he hit them this like twin couple, or like these twin girls from Texas. I'm thinking like, okay, well, in my head I'm thinking like, wonder why you hit someone up from Texas when you're trying to advertise for, Mesa. So I don't really see the connection, but they got big numbers and they're a big food, people. Like, they review food and say nice things, and then people go follow them or whatever. But he hit them up, and I don't know whether they came out or not, but like, essentially he figured it out. He realized like, these people go around and they get paid to take pretty photos, say nice things, and their followers are all over the place, but they're not anywhere near his food truck. His food truck depends on people coming to the truck to eat the food. So I don't know what kind of advertising you'd want to pay for, but whether you got big numbers or not, it doesn't mean anything if like, all my followers are from around the world or around on the East Coast. Yeah, but they're not coming to Arizona to have a hot dog in Mesa.
Right. Yeah.
So he realized people like me, and not to put myself out there, but like, I just do the work, and I don't advertise, man. Like, I don't pay for boosting things. Mm-hmm. If you're local here and you follow me and you look at who's following me, and I promise you that if you look at my profile on Instagram and don't see someone that knows that's following me, then even cooler, because I appreciate you more. But I think it's cool because if you follow somebody or they follow you, and you're in their community, and you come to me and you see, oh shit, they're following me. Can I curse on here? Is that cool?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Oh yeah.
Oh sweet. Oh fuck yeah. Okay. But like, I don't know. I find way more value in recognizing like it means something more when like you can see your friend is already following me or whatever, or whoever, and be like, oh man, my friend loves this guy, or this guy does cool shit, I should follow him too. Then to me, that's better, because you're only 1 degree off.
Yeah.
Like, you can hit me up and I can more or less see it and decide whether I want to engage or not. But like, I think that's way more incredibly valuable. So like when I say like, yo, hit up Birchie's is dope. You're only 1 degree off. That means you could just go there and see Birchie's. That's it. And I'm friends with a lot of like farmers, a lot of chefs, a lot of people doing shit. That's kind of what I'm into. I'm into people just making stuff, whether it's something I'm familiar with or something that I just find really fascinating, because I'm into learning. Like, I just realized I'm obsessed with learning new things, especially if it kind of falls into the vein of like learning a craft.
Yes.
Or creativity and how to use the craft. Because I think my whole life principle is creativity is your source of kind of taking the rules and then bending them to your life. Like, some of them are meant to be broken, and some of them are used to like really get you into out there, you know? And that's like what to me rules are for, not to really be like followed line by line, but more like, this is just to get everything set up. And then after that, like, use your creativity. That's the point. Like, how to make that thing, whether you're brewing beer or growing microgreens or cooking dope food, like, your creativity is what's going to set you apart from, because everyone's making food, or there's plenty of people doing the shit. Like, you're not going to make something new, but you're going to maybe twist it and manipulate it just into your own niche, and it might not even be new, but at the end of the day, like, that's what's going to get you there.
Yes, and that's exactly what I started this podcast for, is not that I was ever suffering from creative fatigue or what have you, but there's this gentleman at work who's the maintenance man, and the way that he works, there's a certain creativity in that. And that got me to thinking he has a workflow that I can learn from. So I decided, like, wait, I want to talk to anybody and everyone, whether you're a carpenter, a maintenance man, the hot dog guy,
right,
a porn star. They all have a creative way of how they do their things, and I can learn from any and everything in that sense to help my creativity, and in turn maybe share through this thing.
I mean, I think like photography's done that for me. Like, the more I've listened to everyone else, I mean, that's what I love about, like, for example, the film photography community is film is limited. It's what it's made to be. You know, film isn't digital. You can't shoot 100,000 photos on a memory card and call it a day. You got 36 or 24, and that's it. And it made me realize not just the slow down factor, which I love. I love the whole, like, you take your time, you wait, you're basically fishing for moments, you know. But I love, like, I don't know, the quiet, like, reflection and waiting and reflex, and you sort of hope you got it, you know?
Yeah, because you can't check it.
You can't check it. Yeah. Love that. I mean, don't get me started. I love that. And I just love the community around it is very much the same. Like, everyone's doing something, everyone's open, and like the creative side of it is fueled from recognizing, like, you're learning. And I don't know, I feel like there's some kind of correlation between creativity and learning, in that, like, what I love about photography is that everyone's perspective is pretty much different. But even when you're really similar, you might do something really similar. Even we might take the same photograph or whatever, but at the same time, like, you might take something completely different, and maybe we get along because we talk the same or we see stuff the same, and that's really cool. But at the same time, nothing will ever be exactly the same with photography. And I think everyone should be a photographer. I mean, it would kind of be a bummer for business, but it's not about the business, right?
Well, I think the same thing. One of my philosophies is, like, I think everyone should take pictures and play guitar. And, you know, I was never afraid of everyone owning a guitar like everyone's afraid of everyone owning a camera or a phone, because, you know, Jimi Hendrix isn't afraid of that.
Right.
And all the people that really take the guitar and their craft as a musician to the next level, they will never have anything to fear with someone like me who's like just really passionate and knows a lot about camera or whatever, or knows how to play guitar. And I mean, that's never going to happen. I enjoy myself, and it is really a way of keeping sane as opposed to watching the Kardashians every single day, you know, going home and stuck in traffic and all that jazz. I mean, it's just, so in that aspect, I mean, I don't know how, probably got to get into this too, like how while there's appreciation behind the lens in film photography and overall general photography, as a photographer, we appreciate a good photograph. I think that on the other side, there isn't as much appreciation for the still image as maybe there once was. I mean, there aren't any. At one point, there were household name photographers,
right?
You know, from Helmut Newton to everyone talks about Ansel Adams, but then there's Weston, and all those guys were household names. Stieglitz. These people were like, dude, that guy's a great photographer. He's an artist.
Right.
Now, I think that the only real household name photographer where someone might recognize is maybe Annie Leibovitz. I think she might be the last person that someone who's a layman or picks up a magazine knows, oh yeah, that's Annie Leibovitz shot that.
Right.
I off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody else who would be in that genre right now where.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. But I also think like that's what's going to make it really interesting is even in my job, like this past week I digitized like three different families' photo albums from like 1958 to 1979.
Wow.
Super cool.
Yes.
People didn't most people won't even understand why it's so cool. But like I tried to explain it to my sister the other day. I was like, yo, I just saw. So I start from 1958 or whatever. Like I like to go chronological because it's very educational if you go with that route.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, so you get an undetermined amount of photos. It's usually like, let's say 800 photos, slide film. So you're starting from 1958, going to 1979, and you don't really know what the narrative is. You don't even really know if there is a narrative. It could just be a bunch of random images. But this set of photos was of this guy who was in the Navy. He had to be, I would say at the youngest, he had to be 18. Let's say he's maybe a little older. But 1958, so 62 years ago. And that means that kid has got to be almost 80 years old.
Yeah.
That's from image one. And I was like, okay, so these photos are about this guy. That's cool. And then I saw his dad and his grandpa in 1958 in these photos. You could just figure it out. Like you could tell, like they have very similar traits. When he's older, he's going to wear glasses. Got it. So in 1970 or 1960, 1962, he had a kid just from looking at the photos. This is just from photos. This sounds like a story. This is what I loved about it so much too. But in 1960, 1962, he had a kid, little boy. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then you see like his trips to Europe. You see a bunch of other stuff. And 1970, his kid's like 10. And like, oh, okay. So the kid's becoming a little more of a subject in the photos. And then 1979, his kid's getting a car, whatever. He's a teenager. And then you realize, oh shit, all of these photos, the dad is the subject, is the main focus of all these photos. But they're all slide photos, so they were all not digital, right? Mm-hmm. Guess who would have turned in these photos? His kid. Mm-hmm. The little 10-year-old boy or whatever. It's like, oh shit, this and he was born in 1960, so he's 59.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Like, so his kid, this little kid in these photos, turned in these photos, and he's already 60 years old. Like, so this guy's already way older than I am, and so you see this huge dichotomy of just of 3 to 4 generations of people in one family, and you can see all of it. It's so wild. And I tried to explain this to my sister, and she's like, this sounds like a movie. And I'm like, I know, right? That's what makes it so awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing.
And that's the narrative and the perspective of photography that I love so much, because that's, I won't have the same story as you, you know, like right. I'm born in the Midwest, moved here when I was a kid. I'm this white, lower middle class white boy. And I grew up with all kinds of different colored people in my neighborhood, but not everyone has the same story. Like some people grew up in all one color in their neighborhood, and another one is just from even a foreign country. But that's what I find the most fascinating, because I'll never have that context. I'll never have that information without going for it or asking for it or looking for it.
Yeah, know? And that's, I mean, it keeps you. I'm wondering why did it stop in 1979? What happened to Dad? I mean, hopefully, you know.
I think he was still going, and so there's only like really a few reasons why I'm looking at these photos. Is either the dad. Let's just worst case scenario first. Is the dad died, and this is photos that are be digitized for his memorial.
Yeah,
possible. Totally possible.
Yeah.
It could be a big birthday, could be a military, like, oh man, I can't believe you were in the military and blah, blah, blah. But like, there's only a few reasons. So it's very limited, but they're beautiful. And what I was really continually blown away, but even after this photo album onto other photo albums, was Kodachrome, Ektachrome. These things are beautiful. I did not realize like why this special slide film that doesn't exist anymore or whatever, like why it was a thing. And it is the most gorgeous thing. There's nothing like looking at a slide film like without a computer, but like into the light and looking at it and just being completely blown away. But like, that's the photo. There's nothing else to it.
That's why Simon and Garfunkel wrote a fucking song about that. Even expired film, if you ever see something, it still holds up pretty good. And it's, oh man, that was a great film. And I'm glad it's almost like, I'm glad someone took the time to learn how to make photographs so that they can have that story of their life. And my parents growing up, they threw away the negatives, man.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And I'm glad this person kept the slides and hopefully kept the negatives as well.
I mean, good thing the slide film is like made to be archived and to some degree, you know, like it was made to put on projectors at school, to show how to do things, to use as instruction manuals, but also just like, how else are you going to show it to people? Like, without printing it, you know? So I think that's really special. And I don't know, I've become film obsessed since June or July last year. Like I am completely, and I don't believe it's like just a trend for me, because like, I realized looking at my film negatives, and I have like a giant 3-ring binder of color negatives now, and it makes me feel real good because at any point I can get these printed, I can hold on to these, and you're like, okay, well, I can do that on my hard drive. Yeah, but what if your hard drive fails? What if you don't have, don't plug it into a computer? Can you look at your images? No. And freaking, I'm just getting into printing now.
Oh, God.
I know. But I've been waiting step by step. I just wanted to know development. I wanted to know how to like expose my film when shooting it better. And like all the steps, I've wanted to feel more comfortable before I moved on to the next step. So like development was kind of the big first one for me. And I'm really thankful for like Phoenix Film Revival and Dan. I wouldn't be able to do this without him.
Yeah.
And he was super generous. So generous about just, I was asking 1,000 questions on open hours one night, and he charged me like really nice prices because I went to Tempe Camera and I checked that out, and I love Tempe Camera. I won't say anything bad about them, but I mean, they were not going to be my first choice for much of anything, but yeah, I'm glad they exist. Don't get me wrong. Like probably none of us would probably be here without them to some degree. But I feel like so grateful that Dan showed me how to develop, like, is totally just spreading the love of how can I do this? I want to do this. Like, and people are enamored by film, even if it is a trend for them. Like, I work with a lot of models. I do a lot of fashion, and they love it. Like, they like respect you, or they like respect the fact that we can't see it. Like, even I can't see it. I know I exposed well and everything's going to come out fine. You know, I'm strong in that, but anything can go wrong. I could drop my camera, the thing could pop open, boom, gone. Your
developer's at the wrong temperature.
Develop wrong, gone. You know, overdeveloped, gone. You after development, like, you can still fuck it up.
Yeah.
And I think that's something super powerful, super beautiful about, but I also love all of the quirks of film. Like, I don't like people kind of use, like, I can see both perspectives of, like, yeah, grain or dust and scratches. Like, oh, but they shouldn't have those. Okay, yeah, that's probably true. I kind of agree with that. But at the same time, you know, I'm not going to get these scratches without the fact that it is film. So whether it was bad or good, I kind of love it. And I kind of just let it be. Like, I'm trying not to get rid of the fact that it's film, because we are already so comfortable with digital as a society now that, like, and even filters and all that bullshit. But, like, and I don't think we should make, like, digital look like film unless we're trying to add it to film, I guess, or trying to be consistent with some kind of thing. But at the same time, like, I just feel like, let film be film and let digital be digital, and be okay with it.
Yeah. If you want, I talked to somebody as well too. If you want a perfect image, shooting film for you isn't the way to go anymore. If you want a clean, color corrected image, that's what digital's for is now. And if you wanted to shoot film and get that, you're barking up the wrong tree.
Right.
Film, even from roll to roll, is going to be different.
Absolutely, even the same roll, like the same stock. And I love that, and I love all the like kind of idiosyncrasies between them, and like the oddities, or the color is slightly off on that one frame, but the next frame is completely fine. Love it. I think there's nothing to hate about it. I think the fact that you should realize is, yeah, that's film. And I don't know, it's so classic and so art, like, forward, very, I don't know what it is. I think the most beautiful thing about film for me is the fact that it's in focus and it still looks soft.
Yeah.
I love that. I think it glows. It's just like it's like humming to life, and I don't really understand how to explain it, but I think it's so beautiful.
No, that's it. Wait till you start. Have you started shooting medium and large format yet?
Only a little bit. Really hungry to move into that direction, but honestly, I think 35 is plenty. And I think, yeah, like, for the digital aspect of things, I could see why 35 is so or medium format is so popular for a lot of my favorite photographers shooting medium format. But you know what? If you can crush 35, like, really own it. I mean, forget the fact that medium format is shooting 5 times the size of 35 or whatever, or twice the size. I don't know how you do the math, but
it's bigger,
right? It's big.
Yeah.
But if you can crush a solid 35 frame, like, I don't think anyone could talk shit, even using large format, because it's not made for digital. So the fact that you're digitizing and it looks better because it's medium format on digital, fine, sure, but that doesn't make it better. It's just bigger. It's just more raw data, but it's not better.
The only, I mean, going back to who I think are the best photographers, your favorite movie's probably shot on 35 millimeter.
100%.
And very few are what are those IMAX medium format that shoot. I mean,
amazing.
Yeah, that are cool, but
yeah,
like, again, all those guys, all those movies,
it's still film.
It's 35 millimeter film.
Well, even the IMAX stuff is IMAX film, and that shit's huge. You know, 70 millimeter or whatever. Yeah, it's so big. I've seen the negatives from those. I got to hold a frame. Well, I should say I got to hold 1 second of film from what's that war? Oh, Dunkirk.
Oh, yeah?
I got to hold 1 second of film from Dunkirk. It's, I mean, when you hold it, it's the same length, but it's so big and it's so gorgeous. You're just dumbfounded. Like, this is film? Oh my God. But like, I mean, my two most favorite films on film are Sound of Music.
Okay.
I watch that remastered shit. It is insanely gorgeous. What? And Morgan Freeman, Shawshank Redemption. Thank you. Yeah. Which is by far the most perfect movie there ever was. That's a different conversation. But Shawshank Redemption and Sound of Music are the two most beautiful movies of all time, in my opinion. I mean, there's plenty of other beautiful movies out there, but for me, those are like what do it. I'm like, yep, that's the best.
Yeah, I mean, you know what's funny is that last week I thought of Sound of Music actually, and I just started listening to my favorite things. Because I'm a huge Coltrane fan. I don't know shit about jazz, but I love John Coltrane.
Yeah.
And his version of My Favorite Things is one of the most perfect musical pieces ever written.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you know, yes, but let me just hear the original versions because I basically forgot the lyrics. You know, as a little kid, you remember the lyrics.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, shit. And then I started watching the movie. I'm like, dude, you know what? Yeah, it's legit. Yeah. It is good stuff. And I hate musicals, but I tolerate some.
Yeah.
And Sound of Music is one of them.
Dude, Sound of Music, I think it's because like Sound of Music has the most, I mean, I know what I like about it. Like for me, it's a sound that we don't hear anymore. So when you hear it, you're like, oh, wow. I haven't heard that in either you've never heard it or you haven't heard it in so long or like since you were a kid. But like, I think it's the strings, to be honest. The classical string chords that you don't hear anymore. Only like Thomas Newton Howard, freaking John Williams, you know, big names, big household names. Hans Zimmer does it from time to time, like in Inception. But like you don't hear big, powerful string orchestras much anymore. And it's like for Sound of Music, listening to the opening credits. Don't even watch the movie. Just watch the opening credits till the very first scene. And I promise you, it's like you haven't heard that in so long. And I don't know what it is. That's like I'm into like 1970s Japanese jazz.
Okay.
Because jazz is so cool and like really weird and crazy rhythm changes and key changes. I miss key changes, period. Like no one just does key changes in the middle of a song anymore. Like
not maybe to that level.
Kanye did once or twice, but but like I don't know, like I miss key changes. I miss the whole like culture of music and it's like intelligence, you know, it's musical intelligence. We'll call it that. But like, I don't know. I think 1970s jazz, it was Japanese people in this Japanese jazz I listened to specifically, like they became aware of jazz and was like, oh my God, we can do this too. And like they would play old, like really cool songs and they would just do jazz covers. And then you'd be like, oh shit, I know this song, but then you've never heard it like this. And then it's like the piano and the just like rawness of it. It's captivating. I don't know.
No, I do know. It's exactly. It's an awesome way to take in some other's interpretation, and not just of a standard, but culturally putting their own riff on it too. And it's just like, dude, okay, all right. Because that, again, going back to like using your creative workflow, it's like, okay, so their perspective on, you know, My Favorite Things, while John Coltrane probably influenced it a little bit, they go and they turn it and they make it into themselves. And I'm like, okay, that's another possibility to do with something that I didn't think of before. And that's, again, you got to be open to that. I mean, it sucks that I don't appreciate probably the Sound of Music as much as you do. Just on the base of fact that it's a musical,
right? Well, I don't even like the musical part either, though.
Yeah,
I'm not really into musicals.
But it's definitely something that needs to be appreciated more.
Yeah,
because again, the orchestra stuff. I was talking to a buddy about this the other day. I'm like, let's talk about classical music for a second. The only place you really hear classical music anymore is the movies.
Right.
I mean, John Williams and there's another cat. You mentioned the other two, but there's one more on the list that I forget.
Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer, and there's
John.
There's one more that
Thomas Dunhart, James.
Well,
Alan Silvestri is one of my favorites. He lives in Tucson, by the way.
Oh, does he?
Super cool. Yeah, he did the soundtrack to Back to the Future. A bunch of other giant movies you've definitely seen, but like he lives down in Tucson. There's like I only know that because his son is a downhill longboarder. I was into longboarding, which is both a beautiful skateboarding art and completely violent to your body.
Oh wow!
Which you're guaranteed to fall down on, but that's actually the only real reason I know that.
You know, I'm glad. So I was just talking to somebody about skateboarding the other day. How throughout zines and things like that, the photographers, the sports photographers that were on the cutting edge of photography, in my opinion, were skateboard photographers.
I could see that.
I started looking at Thrashing and I forget the other magazine, but
Thrasher and
Thrashing is the movie. Thrasher is the
magazine.
Where
Skateboard Mag is the other one.
The photography on those things is epic.
Yeah,
they were on the cutting edge, and it goes because they obviously love photography. They love skateboarding as opposed to a hired photographer who goes to take pictures at the old football game or something like that. You know, it just those action pictures are just amazing.
I always admired when they did you got 16 frames and you see that it's just the shot. It's set on a tripod or something, and they just hit like photo, and it's like the skater doing the one move, and you see all the pieces of it. I've always thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, and I think that is better than watching a video of it.
Yeah,
because every little frame tells a cool little story.
Yeah,
and stuff. So I mean, I'm like, and that was legit photography.
Right.
What I want to ask you about, so you're touching back a little bit on your commercial aspect of working and basically trying to get a story out of somebody.
Yeah.
One of the things that I did want to ask about, but you kind of touched on earlier, is that I was going to ask you, how do you balance the commercialism with your real creativity? And you alluded to that it was stifling.
It's very delicate. It's a very delicate balance right now, and I'm coming back to it. It's taken me a long while. I mean, film photography has kind of been healing in some ways, like taking the time to stop and just take a photo, and it's kind of helped me turn my vision back on.
Okay.
Like, paying attention to light and shadow. That's kind of what I'm into. Like, as a photographer, I'm into like the way the light falls across the city and creates shadow. And I like the way that those two touch, kind of interact.
Yeah.
I also like textures and color, lines. I'm not like, I recognize so street photography is kind of dying.
Oh yeah.
Granted, it's beautiful, and I can probably do the act of street photography for the rest of my life. But like, no one's going to want to look at the same photos because those rules are so established and so laid down that like, there's no real reason to do them anymore. It's actually time, in my opinion, to break street photography rules in some ways. Like, I like the organic, raw part of street photography the most. Like the impossible shots of like someone walked behind a sign and the sign covered their head, but then on the sign there was like an ad and it had someone else's head on it. Right? Love that stuff. You can't really fake that. I mean, you can sit there and wait for someone to walk by, but it's going to be a while. And especially on film, it's even way, way more. But like at the same time, all the street photography things have been established and they're built for a reason because they were legit and it was super interesting to watch them develop. But we're at the point where there's so many photos and so many things. And then, like, you're not even surprised when you see it anymore. Like, oh, wow, look at that. That's crazy. Someone actually got that shot. But that's about it. You know, you don't really walk away talking about that. You're just like, yeah, that was cool.
It has to be really special for it to, I don't want to say stand out, but for it to be, let's just say, valid in a sense. I think that, and the fact that, dude, now you're a suspect carrying around a camera, and everyone's very protective of their privacy now.
Right. It's going to be a big challenge.
To where, like, hey, what'd you do? Did you just shoot that? You better erase it. And, you know, it's like, what are you shooting at, my kids? And it's like, whoa, easy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like...
Kids are always a touchy subject, even for film. Mm-hmm. But I think, like, knowing the rules is important. Knowing the laws are important. I mean, most people don't really know this, but if you're in your window butt naked and someone takes a photo of you in your window in your house, you didn't leave the house, they can still have they can do whatever they want with that photo. But I mean, you were in your window butt naked. Yeah. But like, that's the rule. That's the law. That's completely fine. So that's crazy. But like, I don't know. I think that we're going to start seeing, I think documentarian style or documentary photography will be more of a thing, more than it has ever been, because all subjects are kind of on the table at that point. I think that's really interesting. I'm always been in documentaries since I was a teenager. Like, I think watching the art of the process of things is invaluable. Like watching someone make a beer from start to finish and knowing what's happening and where the yeast goes and why boil and whatever, you know, like I love all that stuff. So
what, is there a documentary that started you off on the journey? Is there one that sticks out in your mind as, the one that,
I don't think so. I think it's just the act of like documenting, like caring enough of the process, because the process is actually the more I progress forward in all the things that I like, I just recognize I like the process. Okay. And why I think film photography for me is not a trend is because I love developing. I love scanning. I love printing. I love every single step of it. And I love touching the film in my hands and looking at it in the light. You know, none of it is boring. So like, people kind of just tune out when they're like, oh, scanning, that's cool. I mean, that's how I see the image on the computer. That's cool. But like, I love, like, I'm trying to avoid touching Photoshop as much as possible.
Okay.
I mean, and I don't care if you do, because the end product is what you want. But at the same time, I'm so trying to make the end product happen when I press the shutter button on my camera that, like, why would I want to do anything else? And I don't, and I listen to so many YouTubers talk about, oh, but Fuji's too pink and Kodak gets the best colors, skin tones. That's bullshit. Yeah. All of that is garbage conversation, because no, if you have a scanner, that's just out the window.
And I keep trying to tell people that.
Oh man, I love Fujifilm. I think Fujifilm's my favorite film. I love I love Fuji Superia 400. It's the most basic, but it is so good. And if I let the auto scan go Super Fuji, I love it. I think, why not have some beautiful pinks? Use that to your advantage when you're shooting. Knowing what you're shooting and the film stock you have can be very helpful. Yes. You know? But I can make Fujifilm when I do full scanning mode, like play with tonal curves. I can make it look like Portra. No big deal. The only thing that I think Portra is really good at is it is very sharp. That T-grain or whatever that makes Portra is very sharp. I have been rocked by like how sharp Portra has gotten. Yeah. But like outside of that, forget the color stuff. I don't even know what you guys are talking about when Portra is so good for skin tones. Yeah, but I can make Fuji look exactly the same. Yeah.
And especially when you start to talk about now the print afterwards. Yeah. Because even if in the olden days, you could Photoshop is just a digital version of what you could do with an overhead projector anyway.
Right.
Obviously, there's a lot of more advantages for that, but you could have, if you take a Fuji, you could have manipulated in the overhead projector to print whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah,
man.
dodge, burn, soften, whatever. Absolutely.
I think when you start to print and you start to understand how much more it is to finish the photograph, I think that that's going to be another wormhole you're going to go down.
Dude, that shit is hard.
Yeah.
It's so cool. I like how it's not that it's hard. It's actually just time consuming to dial it in just right to what you want. Because I shoot the only black and white I really enjoy shooting. I love all the black and whites out there, but the only black and white I really shoot is XP2 from Ilford.
Okay.
And it's because it's color processed and I don't have to do anything to change. Like, I can put it in with all my color rolls and I don't feel bad about it.
Yeah.
Like, I love that. And XP2 is actually really dope because there's like a 0 grain. It's so low grain.
Dude, do you know about Hidden Light up in Flagstaff?
I have heard of it. Hidden Light. Yeah.
So they print amazing quality. They're fine art quality pictures.
Man,
we went a couple of years ago. We went up there, and there was he's got photographs, huge. They print any size, but they specialize in huge prints. And he opens up a drawer, and he's basically got like $500,000 worth of photographs in there.
Wow!
And leaning up against the wall is this amazing picture of a horse head, black and white picture.
Nice.
And they're like, yeah, that's going to sell for like $25,000.
Wow.
Anyone want to guess what film that's? XP2.
Dope. That makes me so happy.
Yeah, and it says like, no, it's not Tri-X. No, it's not. It's not your
Pan
normal,
F.
Yeah, it is, and it's 35 millimeter.
Hell yeah! Whoa, that's cool.
And it was like, dude, really? And it's like, yeah, the grain is amazing on that film. And yeah, a lot of people shit on C41 black and white process. And
I think there needs to be more options. I don't know what people are talking about, but like, I wish there was more than just Ilford's. But I love Ilford as a company. I think they're doing the best work out there, period.
Yeah.
But I think that I wish there were more options because it would be dope if there was a Fuji version. And there apparently was for everyone. Even Kodak had their own.
Yeah.
But I don't really understand why you would have dropped it. Because color, I mean, we're only moving towards digital, which is still going to be color. So why get rid of a color process?
That was one of the decisions. I don't understand how Fuji still, I mean, right now they're just starting to they discontinued a couple of films. Yeah. My favorite film was Fujifilm. I liked the Neopan 1600 back in the day.
Is that like the Natura 1600 or?
A black and white 1600. It's
awesome.
Just the regular black and white processing, but it was the most amazing film that I shot because I shot a lot of music and I shot a lot in the dark, and it was either that or push a Tri-X to 1600. And I love Tri-X. I love pushing it to 1600. All my 400.
I think Tri-X is actually a really cool push too.
Yeah,
2 stops for sure.
I always push all my 400 film. I push everything.
Yeah,
and but Neopan, it was legit. I loved it, and they stopped making it right around the turn of the century.
Yeah,
and it sucks. It
does suck.
To what point now where the Acros the Neopan 100?
Yeah,
they were going to. They did discontinue that, but now it's making a comeback of sorts.
Yeah, I saw that.
But it is expensive as fuck, and to be honest, Ilford.
Crushing it.
Just as good. The Pan F Plus. I don't know if you
Delta is amazing.
Delta's really good.
Love Delta.
And if you want low speed, the Pan F Plus is fucking legit, man. It is.
I'm about slow film, actually. Yeah. I think slow film's so underrated. I think it's fantastic. I shot Portrait 160 and I was like, yo, I would rather tattoo this on my body right now. It's so good.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, slow film. That's what's up.
Hell yeah. Are you working on a project right now? A photography project?
I have several projects. I always have something going on. I can't stop, and that's kind of a problem for me, but I'm trying to figure it out myself. But I'm working on my first photo book. I'm really excited about that, actually.
Nice.
I got
all film?
All film.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's probably going to be all film. I have some digital images around it, but I don't know if I'm going to print those images. Like, I'd rather just print the film.
Okay.
But I don't know how I'm going to print it yet. I haven't decided on how I'm going to do that. I'm just taking the photos currently. But it's I'm excited about it. It's kind of cool. It's basically, I got this really cool, like, 4 foot by 4 foot tub, I guess. It's not like a bathtub. It's like a giant plastic container you can use for containing water or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And I've been using that as sort of a giant visual metaphor. I don't really want to go explain it, but I've been using that to kind of house ideas and take photos using, generally, it's all surrounding women and women's issues. Mostly like all the things that women have to deal with on a double standard basis. Because look at Instagram is a prime example of like just the nipple. I think the nipple is the most comical, like hilarious conversation, and also stupidest conversation on the internet, period. Is like, it's a nipple and women have to breastfeed, and that's weird. But if they're showing off their boobs, it's not weird. Why? Isn't that like completely opposite? Like, women are the life bringers. They bring babies into the world, and that's how they feed them. So what's weird here? And like, that's just the tip of the iceberg. But like, I've been using that to kind of touch on and try and not normalize, but at least start a conversation towards like, where are our priorities and what are we trying to do here? Because if we're not censoring guys' nipples and we're censoring women's nipples, but why? It's like a very weird conservatism that still exists from like the 1950s, I think. Like, I don't really get why America also over-sexualizes everything. Like, the human body shouldn't be so weird. I mean, it is weird. Especially if you look at it and you understand what it does, it is weird. But like, at the same time, everyone has it. So what's the problem, you know? And I don't really understand why we should be normalizing the conversation around things that we're struggling with. You know, drugs, alcohol, sex,
mental health.
They should be normalized in conversation so that we can really go for it and make it better or make it less weird, you know? And I just don't really know why we get bogged down on fighting over it. Especially, like, I mean, I think what women deal with more than men, period, is just the strangest thing out there. I grew up with a lot of strong women in my life. So like, all this women empowerment, I'm like, cool. Yeah, I'm totally 100% about it. But it feels weird that we're still there.
Yes.
Like, that's okay. Wait, we're just now empowering women? It's 2019.
Right.
Which now it's 2020. But like, no, that's cool like 30 years ago. So I'm like, it's not that I'm 30 years ahead. It's just that we're 30 years behind.
Yeah. And it's
stupid.
I was having another conversation. I don't know if there was a back in the day, there was I got this thing like, I want to, like, the only correct question to, are you a misogynist, is either yes or or I don't know. And that's from an old Oprah Winfrey episode where she was asking, there are only two right answers for a kid, is like, have you ever been abused? And it's like, yes or I don't know, sort of thing. And I catch myself like this podcast, I try not to make it such a sausage fest. I need to get more women involved and talk about creative process and that side. And hopefully the next couple of podcasts will be women. But I do catch myself thinking like, wait a minute. Wait, that's wrong. And I don't know if this will help anyone out, but the way that I've decided to more or less reframe this is that, at least in brackets right now, is like, I shouldn't think about it as a woman's right to choose, because that's
right.
That I should think about it in the way of an American's right to choose, because now what you're doing is, in my head, in the conversation, is no American should have their freedoms limited or the wings clipped in any way. but somehow it's okay for women and minorities to do it in a certain way. But if you reframe it to where, no, she's an American and her freedoms are being trampled on.
Yeah.
This person is an American and their freedoms are being trampled on. That seems to be able to process the information better as far as, no, women do this, men do this, and forget about the conversation of the LGBT community. I don't remember the last.
I'm so much more in the like everyone can do anything. Period.
Yes.
There's no. I think more women should curse. Sounds weird, but actually it's totally true. I kind of wish, because women get weird judgments. That's actually what no one's talking about. Like, yeah, women can do anything for sure, because men can do them as well.
Right.
But women have to deal with like, oh, well, if they're angry or pissed off, they're a bitch.
Yes.
But if a guy says it, he's a strong, arrogant man. Like, what the fuck? You know? And like, that's totally wrong. So everyone should be able to do anything, period. I don't really care so much like to go too much into like how to make that more complicated or whatever, but like it should be okay. Like, it doesn't mean anything. Like, it's, you do what you want to do. Why am I going to say it's wrong? That's what you want to do.
As long as you're not hurting anybody, man, this is America.
Right.
And I'm sick and tired of the slut shaming while I'm on my soapbox. I think women should be allowed to be sluts.
Right. I'm like, I just turned 33 years old, feeling old, but I also started to become more comfortable with my appearance. Like, I just like kind of, it's not that I like my own image all that much, but like at the same time, you know what? I just don't really care anymore what anyone has to say about it. Like, this is what I'm working with here, and I'm either going to make it better, maintain it, or it's going to get worse. But like, what's the big deal here? And the only person that I'm worried about, I guess, making that more difficult is actually myself. Right. You know, like I am self-conscious of it, sure. But you know what? At the end of the day, what are you going to say that I don't already know? But I can only imagine being a woman and having that attitude and then being judged, not getting jobs because, well, that one, this, or being judged because of the way they look. And it's just like, I can't fathom that. Even, you know. I don't get the social rules, man. Yeah. Like, I don't understand social rules. Like, they make sense in 1960s movies or movies that take place back in the day. Like, a man does this. He comes home and dinner's ready on the table. Yeah, okay, sure, because women aren't working. So what else are you gonna do? But like, I don't really get the rules now. Like, what are the rules? There's no rules. If you're still following the rules, I feel like you're living on an outdated set of rules that no one's really following anymore. So what are you doing? It's and I don't like it. Right. In a weird, there's a, we have a, I talked about this in one of my secret podcasts, but we have an older gentleman running shit at the office, and he has that frame of mind to where he is actually hurting the business because he doesn't believe his basically his standard of living, the way that he processes isn't up to date. So he still thinks people should be making $5 an hour for doing a job that is way difficult. Right. And there was a young lady who's like, had been bugging him about, hey, you know what? I'm getting offers. And he's like, this is as much as you're going to get paid. All right. So she comes in the next day and goes, I quit. And he gets pissed. Right. Oh, we've done so much for you. And she's like, no. Right. I just found a job that pays me way more. What the fuck you want me to do? Stay here and fucking suffer because you don't want to pay me what I'm worth? Right. And that doesn't have anything to do other than he has an archaic way of thinking. Right. And her being a woman probably has something to do with it. And it's like that mentality is not that it's just only bad for society. It's bad for business. Right. Now you start hurting people. Now they've lost a great employee who was there from the very beginning. Right. All because of this guy's mentality and his rules that are
unbreakable.
Yeah.
And it's not that I am against old people. I'm just against an old way of thinking.
Right. I mean, I think we should always... I mean, I don't really know... I don't know. I'm not that old yet. I'm going to be. But at the same time, I feel like when you're an active participant in everyday life, it's not that the rules are changing so fast, but that you're keeping your finger on a very active part of life. So, like, why do you have to limit yourself and everyone around you? I mean, like, why do you stop, learning, accepting, and like growing from, and not trying to like improve? Because things just kind of ebb and flow, I think, back and forth or up and down, and depending on how you look at it, right?
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, when do you stop caring, but also like realizing you have to continue to learn?
Mm-hmm.
You don't just stop. You don't just, all right, I learned everything, and then just go, right? No, you might take a moment where you're like, okay, I got to apply this information and do it. And then you learn all the quirks in whatever you're doing. So then you know how to adjust, right? That's learning. So where do you stop learning, and why do you then apply that and make that everyone else follow that? Because I feel like that's what happens.
Yeah. And it's like, do you think people like Hawking's and Einstein stopped learning because they knew everything about physics and all the rules, and that's what they use as basis to continue to...
The fact that it's limitless.
Yeah.
It's unlimited.
And you can teach an old dog new tricks.
Right.
You can. You just got to want to do it and want to get off the sofa and do something about it, which is one of the big problems, again, watching too much TV and not feeling passionate about something and being creative. I spoke I keep bringing this up, but photography for me isn't the end all to be all. To me, fuck photography. That's
right.
I could get it's just a tool.
Yeah.
But what's important is your passion. And that's what taking pictures is about.
Yeah.
That's why that's why you get to see that family pictures from 1958 to 1979. Because that guy was passionate, not about photography,
right?
About his family.
He was, yeah, exactly.
And he just used the camera as a tool to express his passion and his love of his life.
Yeah, I'm with that. I think photography's only opened my eyes to keeping your eyes open. Like keep looking, keep watching, keep observing, keep trying to apply it to your life, and you keep using that same whatever it is that you grabbed onto to make you keep doing that. Mm-hmm. That's what you need to hold on to, because photography for me has been eye-opening, and I've loved picking up on all the ways photographers like the things that photographers like, lines, patterns, visual trends, we'll call them.
Yeah.
But like, that's just your perspective, and it's not a rule, and it's not something you have to do. There's a reason why it's so cool and why you like it and why photographers love it, because it's creating some kind of pattern or something, symmetrical. People love symmetrical things, but and that's just how our brain works, Mm-hmm. Then once you realize all of that information, like just keep looking and keep applying your sight to your life.
Yeah. And just feel passionate about something. And use that. I mean, I don't care I don't care if you're passionate about your dog and walking your dog or your cat and taking pictures every day of your cat and your dog. I mean, that's better than seeing. That's better than doing nothing. Better than deciding you're going to go into the cubicle farm and just accept your 9-to-5 job and that there's nothing outside of that. I mean, what happened in July? Last year that all of a sudden you wanted to pick up?
That's actually a really great question. I don't know. I really hadn't got there yet. All I know is lately I haven't had as many outlets into things where I could do them to process the rest of life, to relax, to feel okay. Like I realized like I've had so much internalized energy or energy like inside of me that I haven't been able to put it anywhere. And so that comes back at me. And I think that's where mental health really is like needs to be a bigger conversation, because it is sort of, your brain is a computer. And if it's running overtime and you're not doing anything, then that's like pent up energy just whirling all the things that move for no reason.
It's a disaster waiting to happen.
And it really beats the shit out of you. And photography has been the only outlet for me, because my eyes are always on. I can't turn my eyes off, Like when I'm on, I see the shadow, I see the light, I see how things are bouncing. I know how light works. It's reflectable, refractable. You can bend it. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff to light. And photography is light, or in the art of. And so, and actually, people don't really realize this, but like film photography and photography in general, but like film is technically literally a graph of light. That's what film itself is. It's making a graph. So we see an image, and that's true, but it is a graph. It's just measuring light, and you can see underexposed, you can see overexposed, and you can see the right exposure, all on the film negative. So it's not a colored image, it's the color negative image. But like, that's a graph and a measurement of light. So it's super scientific, super math forward.
Yeah.
And I'm working on a documentary right now that I'm hoping to have it done in time to turn into the Mesa International Film Festival.
Okay, cool.
I'm really excited about it. And it's about Arizona food, so but it's really opened my eyes to the world around me and the community, but also just like how we look at things. And I've done tons of like research. I've been going to the Burton Bar Library. There's a room there called the Arizona Room.
Okay.
You can't check anything out. Luckily, you have a cell phone, so you can just take photos of everything, but that's not the point, is that the books and the information can't leave.
They don't leave, yeah.
And, I mean, part of my documentary is I want to point out the past and how we got to here, to right now, because I want to start a conversation that will lead us to like, where can we go in the future together, hopefully, because what is Arizona food? No one really has a solid answer. And who should be able to say what Arizona food is? Also a valid question.
Okay.
I don't have answers to these questions. These is why I'm started a documentary, but also because I've witnessed like really cool chefs who go out into the wilderness. They know how to forage, how to find food, but also Arizona is one of the most edible places in the world. People don't think this because it's the desert, but compared to a forest, the desert and Arizona there are some more edible things here than there aren't. Like you can eat so much stuff in the that's growing out there wild. And I think that's really interesting. But also these chefs were putting their wild forages on their menu, just like doing crazy dishes with like mesquite and ocotillo blossoms and stuff like that.
Wow.
And I think that's really cool. But also like, who should have a stronger voice in this conversation? Not just the chefs, because chefs are cool, but chefs can kind of be eccentric, eclectic, and kind of all over the place, and kind of just fucking crazy. Yeah, I love the chefs. I actually love all the chefs that I hang out with. They are crazy. I love that about them, and it doesn't actually bother me. But I want more. I want a bigger. I think like I want to take more trips to the reservations. I want to go to San Marcos and Apache and Navajo Nation and Havasupai and like all these other places all across the Arizona. And I've been doing research in Arizona Room and investigating like old photographs. I mean, it's kind of all done through photography, but like the first cameras that really existed were not regular giant box cameras. They were stereographs. They took 2 photos. It sounds very like futuristic and counterintuitive to now, but the fact is the first cameras were shooting 2 photographs at once. And sometimes you could do different exposures for each one, but like everything I've read about photographers in the Old West, a lot of them, not all of them, there are some lucky few who lived to be old men, but a lot of photographers were like murdered, killed, because they're just carrying these giant boxes with a tripod into no man's land or into freaking native land and just getting murdered.
Oh, really?
So many photographers.
Oh, shit.
Did not live to be like, I read it about a photographer who robbed a bank and like took a photo, and they showed this photo from an archive, and it said in the caption, like, 3 days later, the same photographer was killed by an Apache raid.
Wow.
And it was like, oh, damn. And so actually, honestly, photographers, they didn't live to be very old. And that's really interesting. Like, Ansel Adams got to be a fortunate few, and he really did a lot for the world, for photography and developing the negative and all that stuff. But like, so I've been looking at like all these old photographs from around Arizona. So places like Miami and Globe, there's a place called Fort Misery. It's the oldest Western structure in Arizona.
Okay.
I think like 1854. Wow. 1860, something like that. And you can type in Google right now, and Phoenix New Times did several of these articles, but like in downtown Phoenix alone, there's at least 12 to maybe like 20 buildings that are about 100 years old.
Okay.
And they're all beautiful, and they kind of you can kind of tell, like when you like look at the giant buildings around you, especially around like Central, Jefferson, and Washington area. A lot of those buildings are, if not 70 to 100 years old, and I don't know, there's just something to the fact that you can see them. You don't have to look at a photograph. You can look at the building and be like, yep, that's really old.
Yeah.
But I don't know, something's attracted me to like investigating why they got put there, who decided that was a good idea, but also like I saw photos from Bisbee. Bisbee is actually a prime example of re-history photography. Someone has actually taken a photograph 150 years ago of Bisbee, and then someone else came by 70 years later, took the same photograph from the same spot.
Oh, wow.
So you see like people out on a market uphill, building on the left, building on the right, because Bisbee is really tight and small. But like 70 years later, you see a car on the right side of the frame, but same shot. It looks really interesting. Not much else has actually changed. So I actually would love to go and do it again and get the same shot and see, say, another 40 years later.
Yeah.
But like, and that's just like its own fascination. But at the same time, I want to point out the fact that like Arizona is a very particularly special place because Arizona is still very much the Wild West. I mean, it is 2020, but it's still like weirdly undetermined. I mean, a lot of people would say it's very red, and it's very this one way, and you can still get a gun really easily. Yeah. Very well, like love it or hate it, which I'm not a big fan of, but love it or hate it, that's like a old West kind of thing to still have access to.
A buddy of mine, he owns guns. He just happened to say that I think these are the best gun laws for gun owners. These are the best gun laws in the union. They're better than Texas.
Okay.
I
really don't.
Yeah, I don't know
what to say to that.
But it's, speaking as like a Wild West mentality.
Sure. Right. And I actually don't really care if people own guns or not. Like it doesn't bother me. I don't personally want one. I don't see really why you would want one. Personally, like I mean, people might say self-defense, but I don't know. Don't be an asshole is a great self-defense as well.
Yeah.
I
was talking to a buddy. I'm like, dude, seriously, somebody came into my house and wanted to steal something like my stereo. There's very few things I would kill you for stealing something of mine. I don't get me wrong. I love my guitars and I love my cameras. But I don't think I'd kill you for them. I would hurt you,
right?
But I'm not prepared to murder you for that.
I don't think I have anything that valuable.
So I'm like, I don't know, man. I'd rather beat the shit out of somebody than
right,
fucking shoot them with a gun and potentially kill them, sort of thing. That's weird to me.
It's too what's the word? Like it's too exact.
Final.
It's too final. Yeah, it's like way too nah, bro. Like, yo, you want that computer? Just take it. I don't know. What do I want?
It's that Clint Eastwood thing, hell of a thing killing a man. You take away everything he's gotten and everything he's gonna have, or something like that.
I don't even know.
Fucking, it's Unforgiven, bro. That's got to be on your repertoire.
I've seen it probably. I'm into westerns actually.
Why did you? I think I know the answer to this because I have my own theories on this. But why food? Why as far as the documentary?
Well, I mean, baseline is like everyone has to eat. It's the most human thing. One of the most human things you can do. And I like human things. I don't know. I guess I have I've gained an understanding and a grace. I don't know. Some people would say a grace for realizing like we all have to do this. This is something we all can do or should do and have to do or whatever. But like, there's no better way to connect with someone than over food. Like, you don't have to speak the same language and appreciate the same food,
Yes.
And I'm into origin stories, but also like I recognize, like I'm into culture. I don't know. We contain so I might not 100% be correct, but I think I'm in the ballpark. But as far as like corn is a giant crop for most of the U.S. and actually natively, corn, it comes in all kinds of colors and varieties, and each tribe had their own heritage corn. And so at the end of the season, they would have the final harvest, and they would cook a dinner, and some of that crop would had already been saved, and so you save the final corn for this kind of ceremonial dinner. You cook it in the ground. It's like a steam oven in the dirt, and it's beautiful. I've been fortunate enough to witness it once or twice, and I didn't really know this until last year, but like you can find rare old corns, wild heritage corns, but you can only find them through different tribes and through specific families because it was their job to save those kernels for next season. And so there are actually all these kinds of corn that you've never had, I've never had, and they're not yellow. Okay. Corn was never always just yellow. Mm-hmm. It was red and purple and blue and wild and crazy. And I don't know, I found that super interesting and fascinating, and I've always been into other cultures and understanding like why, but also how it applies to my life. Because that's, I think, where people stop. People are just like, oh man, that's cool. That's super different. Like, I would never eat that bug, but that's cool that you do.
Yeah.
But no, it'd be like, well, what if I did it? Or like, not that I'm trying to make it my own either, because I'm not, but like how you apply that to your life and understanding how people's culture exists. And I don't know, I've spent some time in Europe and in other countries, and I don't know, I feel like my head was opened up. I became more aware. I realized the way I'm doing it is not wrong, but it's not 100% right, in that like you can do it a different way. It doesn't have to be the same way. And actually, you know what? That's not wrong either. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. So understanding the why can kind of connect you deeper and find an appreciation for both your culture and for others. And I don't know, I continue to dig into that, and I think food is honestly the biggest route into understanding other people's culture. Yeah,
and it's probably only second to music, the thing that binds us, and this is like the force.
Yeah,
it binds us, it brings us together. And like you said, I don't need to know any other foreign language I don't know Chinese, I can appreciate Chinese food.
Yeah, heck yeah,
just something like that. That's
and I think Arizona is still, I mean, to me, like, what is Arizona food? And I think they actually, like, I'm actually really excited because the term New Arizona or New Arizona food became an actual term pretty recently.
Okay.
Actually, in the past year. I've never heard it before that. But like people in Ciao Bella or Phoenix New Times, there's a writer, Chris Malloy, and Lauren, I forget her last name, Lauren something. But they kind of coined. I'm not sure if I'm even personally ready for that term to arrive yet.
Okay.
Like I'm like, what is Arizona food? We hadn't even got to Arizona food. Why we got new Arizona food?
Okay.
Which is still true. But I like that it's become a thing in their articles recently because, I don't know. I guess it's the coming back to the roots to then create something new.
Okay.
And maybe that's why it's called New Arizonan. Maybe I just came up with that. But I just really admired witnessing mesquite and just like shit you see growing on people's front yards, on people's menus,
like actual mesquite as an edible.
People
ingredient.
using mesquite pods, grinding it up and using it for flour to make mesquite pasta.
Holy shit!
Right? It sounds like, oh shit, you can totally do that.
Wow!
Why didn't we think of that?
Yeah,
but no, they were already doing that. I mean, they were making bread and. I mean, natives have been doing that for hundreds of years already, but like, we don't know that. I didn't know that. And some people who have been here generations still don't even really get that. And I'm thinking, yo, we need to be doing this. This should be a thing. And like, and not irresponsibly. We should understand what we're doing and why. And like the fact that Arizona is the most edible place and we should be eating its food and we should be shopping local. Why even go to California? Mm-hmm. I mean, you can grow avocados in Arizona, but they come from Mexico and they're grown mostly year round there because the temperature. It has everything to do with temperature. But I don't know. I'm into farming, so I've really became friends with a lot of farmers. Uh-huh. So I love learning about microbiology and yeast. I'm into that's why I mentioned breweries and farmers and chefs. They all do interact with the same thing, which is yeast and microbiology and understanding nutrients,
Yeah, I saw some of the videos. I saw the Camp Verde video, and you had a farmer's market video on there too.
Yeah. I would like to finish another one. I have another one that I'm not going to mention right now, but
okay.
Like the one in Camp Verde is really cool because I really enjoyed learning about water conservation and the nature conservation in Arizona. They are working with like Hauser and Hauser Farms and Arizona Wilderness, the brewery down in Mesa, Gilbert. And basically all they decided to do was they had a really big conversation amongst the farmers and the water conservationists. And the big concern is really like the Verde River is the main artery from the Salt River to downtown Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
So it's a big deal. No water in there means no water.
No water.
You don't want that. We're not ready for that.
Yeah, out here in the desert.
And we might be getting closer there. But so we need to make changes, right? Healthy changes.
Okay.
And all they did was a lot of there's some farms that grow alfalfa and some other things, but they grow like two things in Camp Verde, for example. And so a couple of these farms, with the help of like the water conservationists and the brewery, decided like, hey, we grow our own barley down in Casa Grande, but we always have to send it to California to get malted, which is then how we put it into beer and how you have your beers. But what if we made a malting facility where we take barley that we grow ourselves and malt it, and we do it responsibly so that we're planting in January, we're harvesting by May, and so we're not really growing anything in the middle of summer because they were growing alfalfa in the summertime, and that affects the river. So just by changing one crop to barley and malting it right around that time in April, May, you avoid using water from the river, and you're not losing business or anything. You're just changing a crop.
Wow.
And you're doing it strategically. So then you got millions and millions of gallons of water left in your river. Mm-hmm. And they have like crazy weird numbers for things for gallons and water because it's so much more, it's hard to measure water,
but it was impactful.
It's huge just from one crop. So now if they can get all the farmers up in Camp Verde to like switch over and kind of go with a program, mm-hmm. then they can save tons and tons of water for the summertime, just for Phoenix alone. And it doesn't hurt anyone. It's great for the economy. And now they don't have to ship it to California, and it keeps it all here. And now, and they can grow and improve and figure it out on their own, but making a barley that then breweries around, there's over 100 breweries in Arizona. And now there's a malted barley that's grown and malted all in Arizona locally that they can buy. Yeah. And there's a list now. There's a waiting list to get on it.
Oh shit.
And it's not even that it's the best thing. It's not. But it's local, and it's actually impacting the whole ecosystem around us, and we're not even really aware of it. But it's like real.
Yeah, man, I love that. And looking at the documentaries that you say, and not to say that they're low budget by any means, but I get the sense that it didn't take much for you other than curiosity and motivation to go out and just find these stories.
Yeah.
To where, I'm not saying again that, it's low budget, but there are great stories, great short films, great documentaries. If somebody wanted to find a story,
it's everything around you. It's all about that passion of using your lens to see what you need to see in order to pull it out. And like, some of it is asking the right questions. Some of it's like, hey man, like, I seen you grow really weird stuff on your farm. Like, why are you doing that? And then like, oh, well, the chefs love the weird stuff because no one's growing that. Oh, that's cool. Like, why are you the only farm growing that? And I'm just asking questions. That's all I'm doing. And I genuinely want the answer, not to like know it all, but like, I just love learning. So it's not stopping me from asking questions. I think if you continually ask questions, you'll get to a question that you don't have an answer to, that you really want the answer to. And I think there's something infectious about that. And I think we need to ask more questions.
Yes.
I mean, we are, and we're getting there, I think, as a society, hopefully, that's my hope. But
do you think you would switch out documenting maybe the same story from video to still photography?
I'm working on that. I feel like I still don't really feel like a pro photographer. Like, I really admire a lot of the photographers around me because they've already asked these questions and they've been doing photos for so long. And I think it's just because I've been doing video for so long, probably as long as they have been taking photos.
Yeah.
I've been taking video. Well, I've been taking video since I was a kid. Like, I got access to my dad's mini VHS tape video recorder, and we used to make movies with stop and record editing, not with a computer. You just like stop, and that's the cut, and then you do the next shot with the record button. You know, but like, I've been doing with video, and both video and film school have really only helped me understand how to boil things down into narrative. And so I've admired witnessing other photographers already doing that. And I really want to get to that point, and I'm almost there. I feel really close to it, but I don't feel like my images are as strong as they could be.
Do you think eventually you'll be working towards maybe having that, like an exhibition at Phoenix Film Revival?
Definitely a goal. I want to do a bunch of exhibitions. I'm hungry to do that.
Because it seems you got a ton of stories to tell.
I have that's the thing. I'm also realizing I'm sitting on a mound. I have a vault of, I guess, content, we'll say, for popularity's sake of what that means. But I've been shooting. So put it in perspective. I don't know anyone who's not a business or has a server that has as much shit as I do, period. Because I have, like, I stopped counting, but last I counted, I was up to like 25 terabytes.
Damn.
And that's of video, mostly.
Yeah.
I'm only just now starting to understand how big photos can take, because I'm doing like TIFF scans.
Oh, yeah. Don't compress
scans. Yeah, I'm doing full scans.
Yeah.
But like, and I'm starting to see the numbers go up for that, but it doesn't compare to video, bro. And I've been in 4K for a while.
Yeah, wow.
4K is popular now, but I've been doing it for a while. And that doesn't even compare to when, as a professional, when you work on a professional editing software, you change a lot of your media to one format, usually it's called a lossless format, which means it opens up the compression on a lot of things, or makes it so that it's a giant file. So when you touch it and do stuff to it, it doesn't lose quality. And that's basically what you do. So you take all of your information and you change it into another format. So then you have two versions of that format, or that same stuff. And then that other side, that new information is giant. Like, you watch a 7 gig video file go from 7 to 138 gigs.
Wow.
Just one file, and you have the rest of the project. So it's like, that's what I deal with as a professional. Like that's what you're that's the workflow. And that's why the workflow becomes so vital. And so you can do the workflow 100 different ways. And if it works for you, great. But like,
being efficient
and making sure everything is up to highest quality standards, that's what happens. And so I just have so many hard drives. They're not even all plugged in. Like, I don't have enough USB ports on my computer to even plug all of them in.
Yeah, you have me beat.
I mean, I'm not trying to beat anybody.
No, I know. I have I thought I had a lot. That's what I have 15 terabytes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn.
I stopped counting. I don't even know. I bought an 8 terabyte recently. That shit's full. I just bought a 5 terabyte like a month ago. That's 3 terabytes down. And I'm just like, oh, this sucks. Yeah. So my biggest goal for 2019 was try and learn how to do media archival, like condense files, and media management is fucking awful, bro.
That's another artwork in and of itself.
Good God. That's why there's a job like in the editing world, because I'm an editor first before everything else, and I'm grateful for that, actually. But there's a job just called assistant editing. You don't edit as an assistant editor. Then the word edit is in the name, but you don't not edit. You do all the media management. You make sure the folders are good. You take your B-roll and you do string outs of topics and make it presentable for the editor. So the editor can just jump in, pick what he wants, and just keep moving. Yeah. And then you got your final product or whatever. But assistant editing is a job. I got fired a couple times as an assistant editor because I am an editor, and it's hard to go backwards. But I mean, especially as a one-man band, you learn how to do all the pieces of the puzzle. Yeah. But that shit sucks. And like, people should deserve to get paid really well for that, because it's not the funnest job, and it's incredibly crucial, especially when you get to this kind of insane data level. Yeah, I was going to mention, you got some really good edits, especially on your fashion videos. Thanks. One of these days I'll pick your brain as I try to navigate my way through Adobe Premiere. You probably use a bunch of cooler. I use Premiere. I like Premiere a lot. I grew up on super long time ago. You know, Windows Movie Maker was my very first editing software, and then Sony Vegas, then Final Cut Pro. Loved Final Cut Pro. That lasted for a long time in the movie industry for a while. Even when it was discontinued, because people stayed on that Final Cut Pro 7 for as long as they could. I edited a movie called Sharknado 3. Nice. It's on Netflix, actually. Yeah, no, I'm aware. Right. I worked on that movie with another guy. His name is Chris, and the director Anthony. But like, we edited on Final Cut 7. It was horrible. I'm really good with that software, and I understood why we were using it, because it was, at the time, short of going to Avid, it was it was really convenient to use. And it was so dead and discontinued for so long that it would crash, and what you'd really do is you wouldn't edit the whole movie at once. You would edit one scene in a timeline, and that would be it. And then you would edit another timeline with another scene. And then as you started to ingest more of the movie into the software, you wouldn't put the whole movie in there until the very end. Okay. You would keep it in separate projects. So like scene 1, you might even just have as a project, and you would start a new project to do the next scene, just so shit wouldn't bug out and crash, because that shit, you'd just be saving, like, Command S, save all the time, because eventually you'd be like, Command S, and it wouldn't do anything, and then it would just crash.
You know the crash. Okay.
You know it would be coming.
Yeah.
So it was that was actually the most exhausting part of working on Final Cut after...
How long did it take to render once you had to do the whole movie?
Forever. Like...
Days?
Well, you would plan it accordingly. No, you just, like... It'd be like sometimes... it depends on the movie, but, like... And the level of production of where it is. Because even in editing, there's different levels of the production for editing. So you'll edit the cuts before any visual effects in there. And then you'll export out the scene, and the scene will go, or whatever sequence, even a shorter. All movies are composed of scenes, and in each scene is a sequence or multiple sequences, and then in between sequences are individual shots. So that's like how you have to break down a movie. And actually, that's why I don't really watch movies with the same kind of appreciation anymore.
Okay.
I actually watch movies now. I figured this out actually pretty recently. I watch movies for all of the pieces now. Okay. I admire the wardrobe design, or I admire the lighting design. That's one department. That's a group of people doing one thing.
Yeah.
And I've realized I stopped. I mean, it's short of like a really good movie. Because there's this conversation going on with Martin Scorsese that I thought was really interesting, which is he talks about cinema and hero movies.
Yeah.
And it's a really kind of not for everyone conversation.
Controversial, to say the least. It hurts some people's feelings.
It does, but it's totally true. Is hero movies are not cinema. They are movies made with more marketing behind them, as well as like for rides, for games, for clothes, for toys. All those things are fueled by the movie, but the movie is sort of perpetually pointed that way. Whereas cinema, they're not making toys of The Irishman, you know,
right.
That 3-hour epic movie that he just put on Netflix.
Although I'd probably buy one.
Right? That would actually be pretty rad. They need realistic adult toys. But like the argument is that's cinema and cinematic beauty versus whatever you call the Avengers, you know?
Yeah.
And he was calling it like a amusement park, or like whatever Universal Studios theme park movie is. So then you can like go take Star Tours in Disneyland.
Yeah.
Now they have Disney Star Wars, but
there's too much of the God in the Machine aspect to these hero movies, and I love I love the Lord of the Rings too, but everyone gets saved at just the right time. Just in the darkest hour, there's a miracle that happens. And I'm like, hey, it'd be good if somebody just died for a second, you know,
right?
And I think that's why maybe I appreciate like Game of Thrones a little bit more, even though it's a little played out. But you know, I didn't that first season. I did not see that coming.
I kind of hated on it pretty hard, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's I binge watched a few years ago most of the seasons, and then I just at the point I haven't watched the last season. I'm at the point where it's like
it doesn't matter,
and then the feedback is like
I watched it. I thought it was all right.
Yeah. I mean, I
didn't hate on it, but I also waited until it was all over. Like I didn't really care. Nothing spoiled it for me. I just like, all right, I'm gonna watch it when I watch it.
Okay. Yeah. All right, man. I can sit here and talk to you all night, man, and I wish I could, but
no worries.
I gotta make sure you get fed and go to sleep. I'm sure because you got work to do.
I'd love to do it again, though.
Oh yes, please. I definitely want to have you back and continue the conversation, and definitely check in on your photography.
Appreciate
and
that.
On the documentary for sure. And of course, I got to pick your brain about editing and tips and tricks and stuff like that.
Yeah, whatever you need.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You can find me at 8amfilms.com.
Mm-hmm.
Instagram at the same place. All one word with the number 8. 8 a.m.
Oh, I'm putting all that in the show notes, too.
Right on.
For sure. Hell yeah.
That was Aaron Markus. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you got any questions or concerns, give us a call. Well, I don't have a phone number yet. Maybe. I don't know. I'll set one up, I think.
so you guys can leave voice messages or whatever. But you can drop us an email at thecommonrule@gmail.com. Twitter is Restless Samurai, and the Instagram is The Common Rule. Thank you again so much. Have a great day and enjoy your youth.